Since we were chatting earlier, I have a question for you specifically on the contract again, on the Stellantis contract. On Tuesday, the Department of Industry told us that no single lawyer reviewed the entire Stellantis contract. They specifically said, to my amazement, that legal isn't even present during negotiations. So they explained that only a few lawyers would have seen select parts of the contract. So if there's no single lawyer who's reviewed a contract of $15 billion, would it be responsible for the Minister of the Treasury Board to sign off on the spending?
So again, Mr. Chair, in terms of how the agreement and the deal was reached, I wasn't there. I can't really comment on that. I'll go back and listen to that testimony with great interest. Again, we are dealing with the parameters. So it's Cabinet makes decisions that establishes the parameters of a program or an initiative or a deal. And if the department's proposal to Treasury Board respects those parameters and respects Treasury Board policies, then the responsible minister is given the authority to go ahead.
Okay, so would you expect that lawyers would have combed through that humongous $15 billion contract with a fine-tooth comb to protect Canadian taxpayers before it came to you?
I would expect that the responsible departmental officials in Justice and ISED and maybe others would have reviewed all relevant material, and I will go back and listen to that testimony with interest.
Okay, so earlier Minister Ali said that there's mechanisms to deal with people violating TBS guidelines. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. So Treasury Board policies and Treasury Board directives are mandatory, and there's a way for a department to seek an exemption if warranted, and Treasury Board can grant exemptions, or I can grant some. Where you've got departments who are not respecting Treasury Board policy, there are things Treasury Board can do. They could remove delegation for contracting authority or for HR authorities, etc. So it effectively would be, the most common one would be additional reporting or an improvement plan. If it's too severe, then you would actually see pulling back of contracting authority.
Okay, so would you consider not having at least one lawyer look through the entire contract? Like I say, I was absolutely stunned when they said they don't have legal during negotiations. And then on top of it to say, well, no one single lawyer actually sat through the entire, they were parsed out pieces of the contract. Like, would that have broken the rules? That seems to me like very unusual for a $15 billion contract.
So I can't speak to what happened in this case. The normal case when I was in line departments, when you're reviewing a major agreement or deal, is you would get legal advice as part of that, and they would sign off on this. I cannot speak to the detailed process that the department followed.
So you are saying it would be the norm that Treasury Board would expect that there would be proper lawyer oversight before it comes to you for signing?
There would, before a department reaches a deal, there would be legal risk analysis and a sign-off of some sort. You're not going to find that in a Treasury Board policy. That's just my own expectation, and it's my experience as well.
And you know what? Honestly, I would expect that as just a regular Canadian taxpayer that you would have proper legal oversight. So it just kind of blew my mind when they mentioned that.
Well, as I said, Mr. Chair, I will go back and read that testimony. So I'm curious.
Yeah. So that was Stephanie Tanton that said that. She was very clear at the Tuesday meeting. So. The job of the Treasury Board, you're there to ensure that things like there's provisions to protect the Canadian jobs in the agreement. Is that correct?
Again, it would be the parameters of if there's a program involved, which is a series of agreements, there would be parameters in the program that they would need to respect. My recollection of the Stellantis is that it's not a particular program; it's a one-off agreement. The parameters of that would have been approved by, not by, like the broad parameters, not approved by Treasury Board. They would have been negotiated by the department. Okay.
So you would have nothing to do of ensuring that there were job guarantees in that. Whose job would it be to ensure there were job guarantees in order for that? Because I know, like from what I understand, the Treasury Board is this that has to make sure spending is justified, risks are understood, the department has done its homework, and taxpayers are getting what they pay for. So whose job is it to make sure there are job guarantees or clawbacks if things don't happen, or like in the case of Stellantis, they leave?
So
Very brief answer, please.
Sure, certainly, Mr. Chair. The department would be responsible for making sure that they had enough protection to respect the government's decision in terms of whatever guarantees were established when it was approved.